Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh Shell Critter back at you to finish out our mock draft. S. Viernes, happy Friday, gents.
Es viernes, mi amigos.
TGIF, TGIF.
Absolutely. All right, we are doing our mock draft, have the back 7 picks of our draft today. So question of the day, who's your favorite late round pick this year?
Well, how late
a
are we
guy
talking?
maybe that you start or favoring towards the end of your drafts, find that you end up drafting quite a bit when you're doing mocks. Who do you guys like?
Crit, you want to kick it off?
It's tough. Like there has been a guy that I've been leaning towards. I mean, I don't put too much stock into this. I think that he's probably going to burn me again, but I've been picking Curtis Samuel with like my last pick.
Oh.
So I think obviously he is a favorite of Ron Rivera. They paid him a decent amount of money to come over. And if you look at like his production every year in Carolina, it was awesome. I think he ended as like the wide receiver, like 20 or something his last year in Carolina. Like he was like getting snaps out of the backfield. He's like a crazy athlete. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field. So I think going into year 2, I have some hope, but like, again, he's my last pick, usually maybe like second to last pick. So it's like, if he doesn't work out, I haven't invested as much into him as I may have last year. So yeah, I'd go Curtis Samuel.
I'm gonna stick with that wide receiver spot, and I'm gonna go with KJ Hamler.
Ooh,
just
nice.
jumped into that wide receiver 3 role within Denver, but 2 things that I'm really considering here is that Cortland Sutton has had a mega tough history of injuries. Jerry Jeudy hasn't really popped necessarily yet. I think now that he's got a really legit quarterback, this will be the year that he does finally pop. Obviously not taking any shade, no shade intended towards Drew Lock, but you know, Russell Wilson's on a different planet in comparison to Drew Lock, and Hamler pre-injury was legit. He showed that he could be a pretty sweet receiver. The other thing too, he's that entire Denver receiving core is facing the easiest schedule according to fantasypros.com, that Denver receivers have the easiest schedule. So I think there's going to be opportunity for Hamler jumping up, given that there's that Tim Patrick injury, and that Patrick's out for the season. I think you could definitely make a case for KJ Hamler being draftable late. But he's going right now in the 200s overall. His ADP's in the 200s. I think so if you're able to get him as a late round flyer, definitely worth taking a chance on, and somebody that, if Sutton were to get hurt again, if Jeudy can't perform, Russell Wilson has shown that he can support 2 receivers very, very well. Third receiver, he hasn't really always had. So maybe this would be the opportunity for him to have a third sweet receiver, and maybe Hamler is able to, be able to get you some points. But especially if one of those top 2 receivers in Sutton or Jeudy went down, I think KJ Hamler is a great guy that could jump into and fill in as a starting receiver for Denver.
One of my favorites is a rookie out of the University of South Alabama, and that is Jalen Tolbert of the Dallas Cowboys. So
nice.
He's somebody I find myself kind of gearing towards a little bit, not because I'm biased because he is now on my dynasty team, but also because of the Michael
KJ
Gallup
Hamler's
injury.
also on my dynasty team, so full transparency here.
All right, but I just like
pattern here.
Yes, I just like Jalen Tolbert. He's got he should be able to get some decent target share right away with Michael Gallup's injury. You have the void from Amari Cooper, which could end up going more Dalton Schultz's way. That's why we drafted him in our mock draft yesterday.
There
but
we go.
Jalen Tolbert is somebody that had phenomenal numbers in college. Granted, it was from a smaller school, but is that a pretty good camp so far? And Dak has shown that he's been able to support 2 wide receivers in the past. So I like Jalen Tolbert maybe stepping into that wide receiver 2 role, getting some good rapport with Dak, maybe has a couple good games and fights Michael Gallup for that wide receiver 2 spot. And if Dallas's offense can take a step forward, turn around and be productive like they were a few seasons ago, I want a piece of that. And Jalen Tolbert could be a nice piece for you later on in your draft.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm down with that for sure.
Absolutely.
Opportunity is definitely going to be there for him to do some damage.
Definitely wide receiver heavy at the end of the draft.
Yes, yes, that's for sure. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. YouTube, we are there as well. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell so that we know when our live episodes drop. And Joe can be found at Das Joe, myself at Das JPEC. And subscribe, rate, review the podcast. Make sure you send us a screenshot and we'll get you some sticker swag sent out to you. All right, Gel, kick it over to you. Sipping on anything fun? Still on your twisted stage?
Still twisted. Switching up the flavors though. On to Mr. Original.
All right. Figured you weren't going the raspberry route.
Yeah, raspberry's gonna be raspberry's last in the power rankings for me.
Taking it back to where it started, the original.
OGTT.
How about you, Critter?
I mean, you know me, like it's no twisted tea, but I'm still on that Oktoberfest by Good City, here in Milwaukee. It's been solid. I mean, I might have to switch to the twisted teas next time, but I'm sticking with it for now.
No, can't go wrong with an Oktoberfest. All right, guys. I wish we had some sad music to play in the background here, but
oh no.
I am drinking my last Dallas Blonde.
No.
Yeah. I didn't. It was a fine wine. I didn't want it to go bad. I still wanted to enjoy it. It's been sitting there staring at me in the fridge, but I had to do it. It's a sad day. It lasted 5 months. So
I was gonna say you did a really good job
keeping
that for saving that one. So
if ever there's a time, it's draft day.
Yeah, exactly. Bang.
Right.
So hey, you gave that a really nice run though. I gotta give you the props on that. That's impressive. Yeah. God, my face looks ghost white right now.
Yes, check it out on YouTube. I think Critter's the only one that looks normal here. I look like Santa. It's
like
nice
in the Bat Cave.
Yes, in the Bat Cave. Yes, my living room does not have a ceiling light, so I have a nice desk lamp rocking right now. So
I like it. Like ominous.
Get that figured out.
Suspicious. Yeah.
Now Crit's winning the webcam battle right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's for sure.
Only the finest.
Plus he's got the mullet. I mean, you got to see that on YouTube too.
Go to YouTube. It is a fantastic mullet.
If I'm invited back, maybe I'll do no hat next time, full mullet. So
all right.
Kid Rock style.
Thanks.
Party in the bag, baby. Party in the bag.
All right, so let's jump back into our draft here. Get the screen share going for those on YouTube. Make sure you go there and check it out. You can check out our draft board. To recap our team, we are drafting from the 9 spot, half point PPR, 1 QB, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, tight end, 2 flex, and 6 bench spots. We have a team comprised of Najee Harris, Devontae Swift, T. Higgins, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, my bad, Allen Robinson, Dalton Schultz, Elijah Moore. So we
good.
Yes,
I'm into it.
Solid right now.
Very good.
Very balanced as well. 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs, tight end. So tight end, we're probably out on the rest of the draft. Still need a quarterback, but we can pretty much go any direction here. We had teased last episode, Joe is trying to fight hard for Hunter Renfrow. He is still on the board. Kick off our 8th round here. Treylon Burks, Devin Singletary, Devonta Smith went in front of us. Hunter Renfrow on the board here in our 8th round. Overall, some of the names that are out there, I'll skip over Dallas Goedert, not going tight end. We got Dak, Tom Brady, Hunter Renfrow, Chase Edmonds, Brandon Ayuk. Let's see some of the other running backs here. James Cook, Melvin Gordon, Ramondre Stevenson, and wide receiver, again, Hunter Renfrow, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, Gels boy, Tyler Lockett, locking it in. Garrett
it
Wilson,
out.
Alan Lazard, intriguing too here. And yeah, so we can pretty much go any direction here. Yeah, I think we know where Gel is leaning here, but what are you thinking, Critter?
Well, shoot.
Ooh.
First off, I want to kick it over to Crit on his thoughts with Lazard here. I mean, what kind of output do you see with Lazard? Because obviously an intriguing prospect in terms of, that, or you assume that the targets are going to be there.
Right.
Rodgers came out earlier today and said, and basically shit all over the rookie wide receivers.
You're right.
So
like
I guess that's an arrow up on Lazard, but do you think that, I guess, what are your thoughts on him in terms of, Josh, can you go to receivers again?
Yeah. Can we go over
Absolutely.
there again?
What are your thoughts on him and how does he compare to some of these other guys?
Like if we're looking at just who's available at the top here, I mean, he's definitely not my favorite. Like I love the Packers. I love Lazard. I think he's going to be great for us this year, but they keep hyping him up as the number one option, and maybe on paper he is, but I just don't think that that's sustainable. I mean, I think it's probably going to go week to week with the Packers. I mean, 1 week, I think it'll be Lazard, and then Sammy Watkins is going to have his patented, like, crazy 2 touchdown, like 100 something yard game. And then it could go, Big Bob Tunyon could have a big game. Like, I think they're going to spread it around enough to where he's not going to be super valuable, especially picking him like here. If we were to get him, I think he'd be there in a round, maybe 2, but probably not. But if we're looking at these names here, I know your boy is Hunter Renfrow, and I know we talked about that last time. I agreed with what you said. But if I'm picking here, if we're going wide receiver, I think there's a case that Brandon Ayuk could be a more, sexy pick than Hunter Renfrow in my eyes. I think that he's one Deebo Samuel injury away from just being a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, certainly sexier Ayuk. Josh, you've had your run-ins with Deebo injuries. What are your thoughts
last year,
on,
though?
Not last year. No, you're right. What are your thoughts on Ayuk here? Or Renfrow, any of these? I guess let me just toss it over to you 100% and let me know what your thoughts are, where we should be leaning.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting, is between those guys. And again, it's kind of that same position we're sitting in the last time. Do you want somebody that's going to be safe in and out every single week, or do you want somebody that's got a high upside second rounder in Brandon Ayuk? And yeah, it's tough. I mean, you've been burned by Brandon Ayuk pretty much all last season. I mean, he was hyped up, and he's in the doghouse for a good chunk of that. Quarterbacks right now, the one that I'm sitting there waiting on, I think, is going to be Trey Lance, Derek Carr. So I'm not really excited about the next 4 guys that are up there. So you can kind of punt that position. Running backs,
football pun.
Not really into a lot of these guys. I mean, maybe James Cook, but again, you don't know what that offense is going to look like.
I say on running back, let's definitely wait on running backs. You've got 2 guys there in James Cook and Damian Pierce that are both sitting there.
I was just going to bring up Damian Pierce. So
let's not even touch that position right now. I think for me too, same thing. It's Renfrow, Ayuk. At this point, we're building our bench, right?
Yep.
So we've got everybody, we've got all of our starters outside of quarterback, building a bench. Let's figure. So we need bye week production at this point, and that's assuming health from everybody. So we need bye week production. Given that we need something when Higgins is on bye, when Allen Robinson is on bye, when Eli Moore is on bye, we need something out of that position. Cannot have a goose egg. But so that's where I lean Renfrow. But at the same time, like, Elijah Moore is kind of a boom bust kind of guy, and Ayuk could, if we went Ayuk, he could end up taking over Elijah Moore as our number 2 flex option. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, do we favor bye week insurance, or do we want to think, okay, let's take a chance on one more chance on Ayuk with where maybe he could jump Elijah Moore or an Allen Robinson? Thoughts?
I think right now I'm trusting Derek Carr a lot more than I am Trey Lance. So I think I would lean the Hunter Renfrow route if we're trying to fill out our bench. I'm not super excited about it, but like you said, he's going to be mostly in there for bye weeks. And Hunter Renfrow, is going to be somebody that is going to be a name that you can plug into your bye week throughout the season. And he's not going to be in the doghouse like Brandon Ayuk is, where Brandon Ayuk very well could end up not even being relevant towards the middle of the season if he gets in trouble with Shanahan again. So I think Hunter Renfrow is definitely a safer pick. I trust Derek Carr's offense a lot more right now than San Francisco with the unknown in Trey Lance with the passing game there. And I think I'd probably lean Hunter.
That's my vote.
I could get behind that. I mean, especially for what other position are we taking here? Like we said, quarterbacks, I think there's a couple guys we can wait on. Running backs, same thing. So Hunter Renfrow seems like a good safe pick right now.
All right, we'll go ahead and
lock it in.
Lock it in. All right, Hunter Renfrow off the board. Zach Ertz, Edmonds, Dak Attack, Melvin Gordon, Ramondre Stevenson, Goddard, Knox, T. Brady, Ayuk off the board there in round 9. Rodgers, Lockett, Cook, Stafford, Lazard, Garrett Wilson. We are back on the clock. The 4 quarterbacks that were in front of the ones that I liked are now off of the board. So the next team that picks a quarterback is going to be looking Trey Lance, Derek Carr. So kind of the direction I'm leaning initially here, but let's take a look. Running backs got Michael Carter, Damian Pierce is sitting there too, Isaiah Spiller, James Robinson. I think Pierce is the only one that I like out of that group. Wide receiver, you got Robert Woods, Chase Claypool, Christian Kirk, Sky Moore. So kind of getting into the unknowns there and the guys that have switched teams. Not going to bring up the tight ends. We're not looking at tight end right now. So kick it over to you, Critter. A lot of different direction options we've got here. I think I'm narrowed down to 2 guys, but you on the same 2. Who do you like right now?
For me, I'd pull the trigger on Trey Lance. I think I wouldn't want to wait any longer on a quarterback. If we're going quarterback, my vote would definitely be Trey. I think he's going to be this year's Jalen Hurts. His rushing ability is going to be outstanding. That's a team that loves to run. They're going to have so many scripted runs for him. And I think his arm is just, it's an unknown for sure, but look at that supporting cast. He's got arguably the best tight end in football, just from a talent perspective. I think Kittle is amazing. The surest of hands. He's got Deebo Samuel, just is going to demand so much attention. And I would go Trey. I know that, do we got Carr there as well? Is that the other?
Yeah, Carr is the next one that would be coming.
And I think Carr is going to have a great year too. I really do. But I think, again, with me, me, I'm going for upside. And I think Carr would be the Hunter Renfrow pick, where he's the safe pick. I think he's going to be safe. But Trey Lance is like the home run pick for me.
What about you, Joe?
Okay. Team 10, team 11, team 12 already have their quarterbacks in Burrow, Herbert, Jalen Hurts.
We also have team 6 that's already on their second quarterback, and it is the computer drafting. So that they're going to end up taking 2 quarterbacks. Could play that gamble. So I like that you're looking ahead here, Joe.
That's what brings me to Damian Pierce. And if, let's say, one of those 3 teams does take Lance, we know we've got Derek Carr. But we have pimped up Damian Pierce pretty hard, knowing that he's going to be the starter in Houston.
We need another back too.
We could definitely use another back here. And looking at our other options, if we pass on Pierce, we've got it's basically handcuffs from here on out.
Yeah, it does fall off quite a bit. The other thing I'm wondering too is Michael Carter is in front, just knowing that computer guys are picking in front of us. We've got 2 teams that have went 2 running backs in their last 3 picks. Team 12 they've got a crapshoot, but we've got two teams with 3 running backs right now, a team with 4 running backs in front of us. So we could take that gamble as well, that Michael Carter goes to one of those and Damian Pierce ends up sneaking by. But yeah, so I guess it's what gamble do we want to take? Would we rather plug in our 4th running back here or take the high upside of Trey Lance? I mean, Damian Pierce is going to be safe. He's in Houston. He should be their starter. Houston's offense isn't going to be prolific, but you're going to get production week in and week out from him. Trey Lance is somebody, though, like Critter had said, has high upside and could be a potential league winner depending on how his passing is. Like you'd mentioned, he's going to be running the ball. He's going to get some rushing touchdowns. So it's kind of what gamble we want to take. I don't think if we take Pierce, there's any chance that Trey Lance is going to make it back. I think one of those teams is going to take their second quarterback. But if we don't take Damian Pierce here, there's a decent chance that
I don't think there's any chance Pierce would fall back. I personally vote Pierce. I think that, but there is definitely a steep drop off on, there is that upside of Lance.
Yeah. And
I just look at the rest of that running back crop and or like running back crap beyond outside of Pierce. And I mean, these are all second, third backs within their own team.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. I mean, but also, I mean, if we're getting Trey, we're getting him to be the starter. If we're getting Pierce, we're getting him to be our 4th running back insurance.
I get that.
But I agree with everything you said. But for me, I mean, I'm definitely sticking with Lance. I think there's no.
I'm good. I'm fine with Lance.
Joe, are there any quarterbacks on this list that you would be excited about if we didn't get Lance?
Trevor Lawrence would be the next guy.
Okay.
I like Lawrence. I've kind of made the case about when we took ETN. I made the case that I think Doug Peterson is legit. He made Nick Foles a 500-yard quarterback in the Super Bowl against Bill Belichick. So I like Lawrence a lot this year. I get that, I mean, weapons wise in Jacksonville, not great, but again, their defense at this point isn't great either. So they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I think there's a lot of upside with Trevor Lawrence. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. There's a reason he was the number 1 quarterback recruit. There's a reason that he's been the number 1 kind of lock as a quarterback, prospect since Andrew Luck. He's that legit of a prospect. And he's been the number 1 guy. He's been the protege since he came into Clemson. Kelly Bryant was a fine quarterback at Clemson. They went to I believe the college football playoff with Kelly Bryant. And then Trevor Lawrence's true freshman year, came in and took over Bryant's job, I think, in week 2 or week 3. So that's why I like Trey Lance way more, especially if you look at his rushing potential as well. I mean, those numbers that they're presenting to you for you YouTube viewers, you're looking at they're projecting 789 yards rushing and 6 rushing touchdowns. That's a shit ton of production on the ground. So I guess that's the gamble. I mean,
and you can look at it too, that potentially that could be better numbers than Damian Pierce has from a quarterback. 789 and 6 on the ground is a pretty solid.
I'm good going Trey Lance. We don't have a starting quarterback right now. Let's lock in Lance.
Okay. That's where I was leaning. So I think you would have been vetoed Gel anyways, but this is in hopes. If Damian Pierce is there, we will pick him and move on, I think, but we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So we are taking Trey Lance, have our quarterback.
I think Lance is going to be a monster this year. I really do.
All right. So after we took Trey Lance, Claypool, Woods, Freiermuth, Kirk, Moore, Gesicki, our gamble paid off, and Damian
we
Pierce,
go.
actually, no running backs are taken. Michael Carter's still there. So, what
Let's
a
lock it in.
fantastic gamble. Everybody good with Damian Pierce.
I
Oh,
think we need to get our second quarterback at this point.
yeah.
Derek Carr's still there.
Derek
Hey.
Carr. Yeah.
All right. So moving
Let's,
back up
nice
here.
nice and quick.
we'll
Damian
lock
Pierce it
in
is.
Damian
Oh, yeah.
Pierce.
Oh yeah.
All right. Got the long turn here and scrolling down. So I got nice sound effects going in my ears right now to know when we're picking. So I will pause it once we're back up.
Or do you get the doo 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 doo?
No.
That would be great
No
if it was
sports
every
center.
single time.
All right. So after Damian Pierce, MVS, Madison,
Oh.
James Robinson, Tony Baloney, Michael Carter, Isaiah Spiller, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Christian Watson, Ronald Jones, Boyd, Komet, Gage, Daryl Henderson, Albert. What's his last name, Joe?
Alberto.
Alberto. I'm cool.
Albert, yep. And Naheem Hines. So to recap our team here, very, very balanced. You got Trey Lance at QB. Wide receivers, you got T. Higgins, Allen Robinson, Elijah Moore, and Hunter Renfrow. Running backs, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, and Damian Pierce. So very, very, very balanced team right now. I'm going to assume we're taking quarterback, tight end out the rest of the way. So we're just taking wide receiver, running back. So we'll just take a look at the board here. And running back wise, got Rashad White, Tyler Algier, Marlon Mack, Kenneth Gainwell, J.D. McKissick, Khalil Herbert, Raheem Mostert, Jamal Williams. Before I jump over to wide receivers, anybody jumping out on the page here from either of you, I'm not excited about.
I wouldn't call it jumping. Yeah, I wouldn't call it jumping out. I mean, Rashad White, like the argument for him is that he clearly was drafted to be the James White. I mean, I know they still have Gio Bernard, but
racist.
I mean, what has he done? yeah. Like what has Gio Bernard done since he didn't do anything last year? And I really don't think he's got much left in the tank. Rashad White was pretty productive in college, and I think there's some upside there. Like if Lenny goes down, they don't have a lot of clear number twos like behind him like they did last year with Ronald Jones. So I think there's some upside there. For Atlanta, what is it? Algier?
Tyler Algier,
I think that's also some upside because I am probably the most down on Cordell Patterson that you can be. I think that would just be an awful pick. I think that was an outlier of a season. And I think that backfield is wide open. So he would also stand out to me as a guy. Like I've been picking him a lot at the end of drafts too. Just like, why not? I mean, at this point, we're just throwing darts at the board and hoping one sticks. So those two would be, for me, the two that stand out.
Yeah, Algier is my favorite one on the board right now for all the reasons that Critter pointed out. Another guy that we need to keep in mind at the bottom of the screen there, Jamal Williams, given that we have DeAndre Swift just as a handcuff, but at this point, definitely not going to touch him there. Let's jump over to that receiver room. See what's out there.
Where I was looking here. So we've got Michael Gallup, Jarvis Landry, Jameson Williams.
Oh my God.
George
Pickens,
is
way more
Rondale
intriguing.
Moore, Julio Jones, Kenny Galladay. So got a guy out there. And George Pickens, the gel was pretty high on. I think that's kind of where he's the one that jumps out to me on this page. Granted, Big Ben's not there anymore. We've got Mitch Kiss and Titties Trubisky and Kenny Pickett there. So that also scares me, but George Pickens is a phenomenal talent there. So that's probably where I would lean, but
I'm going hard Pickens.
I mean, he's killing camp too, from everything that I've heard. So it's tough for me. I mean, like obviously he's a guy that's coming in as to me, clear number 3 in the pecking order, maybe even 4 if you consider Big Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris. I mean, I just think there's a lot of competition there. I mean, if I'm drafting in the sense of like if I have an IR spot, I might go Michael Gallup because I think when he comes back, there's definitely a pretty clear path to some big volume there. But that's a big question mark. Jameson Williams, from a talent perspective, is probably the best wide receiver left on the board, but question mark again. We don't know when he's going to come back. So I would be fine with Pickens.
Yeah, you could make the same argument for Jameson Williams as you just did with Gallup.
Yeah.
I would probably, if I was thinking that way, I'd probably lean Williams over Gallup.
But Gallup just got
funny.
paid.
Gallup is a cowboy. Just right.
Like they didn't pay him for nothing. I mean, I know that like I wouldn't have given him that contract by any stretch of the imagination. Jerry's up in Jerry World doing God knows what, but I mean, he's a good receiver. I mean, he's been pretty productive as their number 3 the last couple of years, and I think once he comes back, I mean, everything that I've heard is that even he himself said that it's a long shot that he'd be ready for week 1. But I mean, if you're getting him in week 3, week 4, like maybe I'd draft him and hang on to him, even if I didn't have an IR spot. I do really think that like once he comes back, I mean, after CD Lamb, what is that wide receiver room looking like? I mean, Tolbert is a good
boy. Well, JPEG's boy.
Yeah, right.
I guess
he's a good prospect, but
with the way our draft is shaken out, I know, Jell, you're really down on Dak. So does that kind of shy you away from Michael Gallup, seeing as we have Dalton Schultz locked in as their tight end right now?
Yeah.
I try not to let having another player on the same team, like I'm that's not going to make me shy away necessarily from somebody else. So having Dalton Schultz doesn't mean anything to me in terms of Gallup, just because I think if I like Gallup, I know that Dalton Schultz is there and he's going to take targets away. I know that he's there regardless. So that part doesn't scare me away. But what does scare me away is Gallup looked like a really nice number 3. Can he, for the Cowboys, can he jump into a number 2 role as a full-time number 2? That's the question mark that I have on Gallup. You do bring up a really good point, Crit, that Pickens and him having to split that, but split receptions between Deontay Johnson,
I mean, it's a lot of miles,
Claypool, Freiermuth, Najee Harris. That's a great point. However, I would also make this, I could also counter that saying Ben's not there. You've got a new quarterback. There's no rapport with a current quarterback in the room with any of these receivers. Yes, there's a depth chart, and yes, there is a kind of a pecking order, but nobody has any rapport with any of these receivers between Kiss and Titties and
Mason Rudolph
and Kenny Pickett. So
Rudolph. Yikes.
Oh yeah, that's true. Rudolph's got some nice rapport. Good call.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But and then Jameson Williams, I mean, yes, there's going to be upside, but who knows when he's going to play? That's the part that we don't know. That's the big question mark on Jameson Williams. For me, it's between Pickens, Gallup. I'll let you guys duke it out, because I could be evenly split. I'd say I lean 60-40 Pickens over Gallup right now.
Like, I don't know. For me, again, like if I'm looking at in these late rounds like this, I'm like, who's going to be on the better offense? I mean, I think Pittsburgh probably going to have one of the, maybe not bottom 5 offense, but they're not going to be great. I mean, Kiss and Titties he's shown you what he can do. And who knows? I mean, Kenny looked really good in his debut, but like, we just don't know. I mean, that's playing against third stringers, then playing against, a legit NFL defense. So for me, I'm pretty sure that weren't the Cowboys the number 1 scoring offense last year? I mean, I know like McCarthy loves to sling it. Dak loves to sling it. I think there'd be more opportunity, I think, for Gallup to prosper. And if everything falls right, I think Gallup has a much better situation, much better quarterback, better offensive scheme in the sense of for fantasy. I mean, you think like back in the day with McCarthy in Green Bay, I mean, like Jordy and Cobb were just fantasy monsters back then. So I don't know. I would lean Gallup, but I wouldn't be mad at Pickens because I think there is upside there too.
All right.
Deal breaker, JP.
All right. I usually don't do this, so let's try it out and let's go Gallup here.
Okay.
Otherwise,
I thought he was gonna.
I mean,
thought he
if
was
you're
just gonna hit
talking
auto
high
draft and
powered,
let somebody else pick.
oh yeah, I should just let the 2 minutes run out and the computer will decide for us.
That's what I thought you
Have
would do.
back-to-back quarterbacks. No, otherwise, I mean, high-powered offense is Julio intriguing at all?
No,
Rejuvenation?
no, 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 never.
Absolutely not. No.
F
All
O
right, Michael
H.
Gallup is locked in.
And Pickens
All
is still
right.
there.
George Pickens is still there. So after we picked Gallup, we got Tua, Rondo Moore, Jameson Williams, Justin Fields, Hunter Henry, and Rashad White. So right now we are looking, George Pickens is still there. If we're looking at running back, Tyler Algier probably is not coming back to us as well.
No.
So I think those are probably the two guys we're between then. I mean, nobody else is really jumping up on the board here as far as what we discussed last time. So now we have a positional battle here that we are going to be discussing now. George Pickens or Tyler Algier. Right now we're sitting with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers and 4 running backs. So still pretty balanced where we could go either direction. I don't think that's really swaying me one direction or the other. So what are we thinking here, guys?
I want to go Pickens, but at the same time, I'm focused right now in terms of our backs. I'm focused on Jamal Williams and making sure that we get him just to make sure that we've got a handcuff locked in for DeAndre Swift. Not that Swift has ever had any injury issues, but you want to have a handcuff for one of your backs. Travis Etienne, James Robinson's long gone. Najee Harris doesn't really have a handcuff that you would want to draft.
No.
So I'd like to have the one handcuff in Jamal Williams. This is way too early to take him, obviously.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So that was going to be my only argument.
I
he's
think
going to be there.
I think we would take the upside of Pickens here, and then just hope that Jamal Williams swings back. If he doesn't swing back, there's other guys that are further down. Brian Robinson, Tyrion Davis Price, Gus Bus. I don't love, but who knows what J.K. Dobbins is going to look like off of his injury. So we've got some. So if we do end up missing out on Jamal Williams, there are some other backups that are available later on in the running back room. So right now I'm going to lean 100% on towards George Pickens.
What are you thinking, Critter?
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I wholeheartedly believe that like we should take Williams, but I think he would be there next round. I think that right now I would go with Tyler just because I'm one that loves to shore up the running back position a little bit more than the wide receiver. I think it's much easier to find a wideout on the waiver wire if need be for a fill-in than like if 2 of our backs get hurt as opposed to if 2 of our wideouts get hurt. That's not to say I don't like Pickens because I do, but I think that there's so much opportunity in Atlanta. Like I said before, I mean, I don't have to say it again, but Cordell Patterson is not that good. I think he just had a really outlier kind of a season, and you look at his fantasy production and his whole career. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know damn well he's never finished in the top 100 of fantasy players. I mean, ever. I don't think he's ever sniffed it. So it's like, I think, I believe he was a 4th round pick, and he's a big dude. I know they're probably going to use him in the red zone. I would go Tyler A, but I wouldn't be opposed to Pickens too. I mean, there is
certainly a lot of depth there at wide receiver. Now
there's
that
a lot of
Josh
guys
is
that
running
I
through
like.
those names.
Yeah, you got your guy KJ Hamler that's coming up here, Gel, that we can get.
I'm big on Nico Collins. I mean, obviously, Texans are going to need a number 2. Texans need a number 2 wide receiver.
Nico. I cannot do it.
I like Joshua Palmer too down there in Los Angeles. So yeah, I think just looking at
Tim
wide
Patrick, look at
receivers
that. He's up there.
that are going to be coming up here.
Your boy Sammy
think-
Watkins. You know,
I
he's
think
there.
okay, you know what? Looking at this depth at wide receiver, I'm gonna flip flop and think let's go Algier.
Okay. That's where I was leaning that way too, just kind of looking at some of the wide receivers that'll be coming up that we'll have access to. And again, Jamal Williams will be there when it comes back around. There's no way that with the computer drafting, there's going to be 5 or 6 other running backs that go in between here. I think we have a good shot at Jamal if we want to, and we'll kind of see where that's going. So I'll go ahead and lock Tyler
it in.
Algier in.
Different
And we've got
Tyler.
our long wait here.
Ding 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 ding.
And now we wait.
Ding 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 ding. Those dings that also reminds me to remind the listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that. Make sure once you hit subscribe, hit that alert button, ding, and you'll be able to see all of our notifications when we go live, when any of our new content is released.
All right. After Tyler Algier, everyone's favorite sleeper update, Marlon Mack, Kenneth Gainwell, Jarvis Landry, Big Herb Smith, Jr., George Pickens, Kenny Galladay, Julio Jones, Jahan Dotson, Khalil Herbert, Devonta Parker, Deshaun Watson in the 13th round there. Jacoby Myers, Matt Ryan, DJ Chark, JD McKissick, and Jalen Tolbert, my favorite late round guy, going right in front of us. But we're sitting here now. Got Jamal Williams still on the board, like we had talked about. Raheem Mostert in front of him, so one running back here, and then wide receiver have our pick of quite a few guys that are still farther down the list. There, So I think if we want to grab Jamal Williams here, this is the time to do it, because I don't know, we're taking a huge gamble if he comes back. And wide receiver wise, there's a lot of guys that we had talked about that we like that will definitely be there for our last pick in the 14th round. So is it unison here? Grab Jamal Williams.
Real quick, Josh, I want to bring it back to Khalil Herbert. You as a Bears fan, what do you think of him fantasy wise? I mean, yes, it's going to be
Montgomery.
It's going to be David Montgomery's room, obviously, but Herbert did fill in really nicely when Montgomery was out. Do you think of Herbert as just straight up handcuff, or could he have potential to kind of make his way more involved into the offense this year?
It scares me a little bit for Herbert. I'm scrolling way down the list here, which is whatever. But I can't think of his name. He's a rookie this year. His first name slipping my mind, but Ebner has been having a phenomenal camp so far and looks actually really solid. I believe he was out of Baylor, if I'm not mistaken. So he could actually give Khalil Herbert a little run for his money there. He had a very nice first game against Kansas City. So I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a sure thing with Khalil Herbert. He should be backing up, but Ebner's been working his way, should make the team out of camp, and looked halfway decent. It's got a lot of pop. So I definitely think Jamal Williams is the safer one to have. Jamal Williams, we saw last year, still gets into the lineup with DeAndre Swift there. And Swift has had some injury issues in the past as well. So Jamal Williams is probably a better bet to have here.
Yeah. Jamal Williams is the safer pick. Safer, probably the smarter pick. I mean, some other guys like Davis Price is a little interesting. It's really hard to try to break down that 49ers backfield. I mean, who knows what's going on in Kyle Shanahan's head. I mean, even this year, I'm not super high on Eli Mitchell. I think that there's like Trey Sermon has apparently looked really good in camp. I mean, there's just like a lot of guys there, but I mean, he's interesting. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm not interested in Herbert. I don't think at all. I don't think he's going to get drafted unless maybe in the deepest of leagues as a handcuff for Montgomery. But I think Jamal is the pick here for sure.
Yeah, I do like Davis Price as somebody that could potentially make a dent in that Niners running back room, but it's all question marks.
Yeah.
It's with Mitchell, Sermon, Davis Price.
They got like
Knowing
Hasty is
Shanahan,
still there.
it's
Like,
he's gonna go running
Jeff
back
Wilson
by committee.
Jr.,
Whoever's got
like,
Jeff Wilson Jr.
like
too.
Jeff Wilson, Hasty, like those are guys that have all gotten time. I think he just totally rides the hot hand, whoever's hottest in practice. And it just seemed like last year Elijah Mitchell was that guy. And I don't know if he's going to be that again. So
let's grab our handcuff, lock it.
Yeah.
Tyler, lock it in.
He's already taken.
I'm fine with that. That is, get him out of here.
All right, so we have made it to our last pick in the draft after Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert, Trevor Lawrence, Mark Ingram, Alec Pierce, Davis Price, and Mecole Hardman.
God,
off of
who
the
wants
board.
Mecole Hardman?
Apparently, Team
Not
10.
me.
Team 10 is
Team 10 looks like their team kind of blows.
Team 10 took 4 wide receivers in their entire draft in Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Chase Claypool, and Mecole Hardman. So good luck to Team 10.
That's garbage.
They got a fantastic wide receiver one.
Yes.
They got that. That's about it.
Yes. Is it safe to assume, guys, here, our last 2 picks, Tyler Algier, Jamal Williams, we are looking wide receiver for our last pick.
Yeah, that wide receiver room is still pretty deep. Let's hop over.
Yeah.
All right. So
I will say,
go ahead.
I will say, I'll throw this to Joe. Like, I don't know, or even both of you. Like, are you, like, if you're taking a guy like Trey Lance, right? Like, we took Trey Lance, some question marks there. Are you guys, do you like to draft 2 QBs usually? Obviously, if you're outside of, like, if you don't have like a Lamar, Mahomes, like Herbert, like that kind of guy, like, I know a lot of people like to draft 2 quarterbacks. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys, like, would you consider, if we're still unsure about Trey, like, would you grab a guy like Trevor Lawrence, like you said, Joe, like you really liked him?
I personally, no, I don't like having 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. Just because I don't think a lot of times I don't think that like there's going to be options to get somebody else off waivers generally in those 2 positions, especially if I think I have a solid tight end, which we do in Dalton Schultz. I don't necessarily, when that bye week comes around, I'll drop one of my bench players that hasn't performed, or I'll drop Jamal Williams for that 1 week. Then I can go back and pick him up. Assuming that, and that's if I'm looking at like a handcuff type of a guy, like a Jamal Williams, let's say Algier doesn't actually end up seeing the field. He's an easy guy that I feel comfortable dropping. Whoever we end up taking here, I feel comfortable dropping that. I'm going to feel comfortable dropping that player if they're not performing in favor of, of a quarterback for that bye week. But I guess if I'm sitting there and I end up with a 2nd-tier tight end, or a 2nd-tier, or not 2nd-tier, but a lower tier, maybe bottom 15, kind of a receiver, or kind of a tight end or quarterback, then yeah, maybe I'll go grab a 2nd quarterback or a 2nd tight end. But I don't think it's worth drafting a QB, a 2nd quarterback, just to sit on your bench so that you can have an easy fill-in for the bye week. Like that's not worth it to me. And I'll make my waiver wire moves when I need to for a 2nd quarterback and for a 2nd tight end.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the tier of quarterback. Like, if I'm looking at Team 5 here, I grab like a Matt Ryan later on, then maybe I would, if there was somebody still intriguing with a little bit of high upside left there. I mean, right now, quarterback wise, for this particular draft, nobody excited. I mean, it's Jameis, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Tannehill, Baker. So it's not great. Danny Dimes, yeah.
Danny Nichols.
My last round in the draft is typically kind of like Elle said as well. I want this year's Cordell Patterson. I want to take a shot on somebody that is going to be a game changer, or a position that you take your shot and first week they don't see the field. And okay, I'm fine dropping them. there's always somebody on waivers sitting out there that had a big week or a big injury, and maybe you drop that person to try and attack the waiver wire. But
it's nice,
I'm
and
usually
it's nice
looking for
having that
somebody to take a
roster
shot on.
flexibility so that you're not sitting there on a Mac Jones as your QB2 and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna sit on Mac Jones for this bye week, and then you have no roster flexibility beyond that.
And with us having Trey Lance, if Trey Lance has a bad first week, we're still putting him into our lineup the second week too. Yeah. So he's locked into that lineup for a while. Outside, I mean, if he gets hurt, then obviously that's a different story, but he's in our lineup for at least a few weeks until he consistently looks bad. So I think that's where I would lie here, is taking a shot on somebody that could be a potential game changer.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, what are you guys thinking here? I mean, this wide receiver room is pretty deep right now.
For me, there's three guys that I'm looking at, and it's three guys that are involved in high power offenses. That's kind of where I'd like to lean with the last pick. And it's Isaiah McKenzie, who's had a pretty solid camp in Buffalo. He's gotten a lot of hype right now. He's sitting out there. Joshua Palmer, Chargers should have a really nice offense. He's somebody that's been hyped up a little bit last year, was buried a little bit in the pecking order, but should be a solid wide receiver 3 there. And then KJ Hamler sitting there in Denver that, again, Jell had touched on. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, not the greatest health-wise for consistency as far as playing a whole season. So KJ Hamler should see quite a bit of play coming off of the injury. So that is another question mark there a little bit, but I think those are the three guys I'm kind of looking at with some high upside that could be potential game changers and pretty prolific offenses.
Crit, what were you leaning?
Like obviously I agree with what Josh said. Like Isaiah McKenzie, I'm decently high on him. Like Palmer, I think has got some good upside. Romeo Doubs has gotten a ton of hype out of camp. Obviously the wide receiver room in Green Bay is wide open. Watkins has a little appeal. I don't think he's going to stay healthy. Like if his health wasn't a concern, I'd say Watkins would be a great just flyer. Like why not? But yeah, what is
the rule on Sammy Watkins?
Sammy Watkins, you draft, you play him week 1 because he has absolute monster week 1, and then you trade him or drop him immediately.
Well, and like Rodgers has praised, Watkins over like since he's been there. I think like Rodgers does seem to like him a lot. I mean, that's take that as you will. Like, but for me, I think I'd lean more towards like Doubs, McKenzie, or Hamler here.
Yeah, I'm higher on. Pretty obviously higher on Hamler than I am Josh Palmer. Just given the conversation we had to start off the episode, I want to bring Odell into this conversation. Not because he's going to be a year-long option.
But you could throw him on IR if you had one.
So, right. So if you've got an IR slot, so right now Odell is unsigned. So he's technically not on. Is he technically on the IR if he's unsigned? I don't think so, right?
Probably not. I don't know.
Probably wouldn't be eligible for that.
Right. So that's why. But so
yeah, it's interesting.
Think of Odell as late round stash. Like if you're, late round stash play like you would with. I'm not going to say Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, he's not going to be a Christian McCaffrey level player, but somebody that goes into some high level player that goes into camp is hurt, and you're planning on stashing him until whenever he gets signed. Odell showed with the Rams that he could be productive and that he was productive. So Odell, again, when you're making that playoff push at the end, second half of the season, assuming that he's good to go with that ACL, maybe week 10, you got a couple final weeks of the playoffs, or a couple final weeks before the playoffs. And then you've got the playoffs when maybe he's good to go.
Kidding me?
We talking about practice. 2 all-timers. You think Odell is even worth rostering for the potential upside?
I don't, because I think he's somebody that nobody's going to be drafting right now, especially with him
Right.
not on a team that you put on your radar maybe 2-3 weeks before he could potentially come back. And he's a waiver wire pickup for me. I think you take a shot here on somebody that could have a huge week one, make an impact in their offense, and you could end up having them play in a flex week or put in barring injury or something like that. But I'd like to call with Odell late on for a playoff push. He could be a potential league winning player for you, depending on who he ends up signing with, if he goes back to the Rams or whatever. But I think you could wait on him and pick him up off of waivers. And
it'd be hard. It'd be hard to hang on to him for 8 weeks. Or however long. I'm not. Sammy Watkins is a no-go for me. I do like Romeo Doubs, and I think that he has a chance to be that wide receiver 2 for Green Bay by the time we get to like week 4, week 5. So I like the potential there for Romeo Doubs. And then I'm pretty high on KJ Hamler. As I said, it's between those 2 guys for me, Doubs and Hamler, as our main options at this point.
If it's between those 2, I mean, I'm going green. I'm going Dobbs. I'm going green and gold.
Make the call, JP. You're the host.
Yeah, I fucking hate doing this, but I think I'm going to have to lean Dobbs too. As much as I hate to say it, being a Bears fan, but just with KJ Hamler coming off the injury too, and Dobbs has been touted so far during training camp. And again, there's no clear-cut wide receiver 1 with Devontae Adams leaving.
Right.
Lazard has had his share of injury issues in the past, so if he gets hurt,
that's also true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, good call.
That's kind of where I would lean Dobbs.
And Dobbs, I mean, he's going to get some shares of the Bears. I mean, Rodgers is the owner. I think when they go to Soldier Field, he's going to get some TDs. He's going to get some shares. I mean, he's going to be valuable.
Those of you listening, if you enjoyed Critter on here, this will be his final episode. So
it's been real. It was worth it.
It's been real. It's been fun. It hasn't been real fun.
Yeah.
Worth it.
So no, I'm good locking in Dobbs here. I think with our final pick, there's a lot of upside, and that's somebody that falls into that category. Like I said, taking a shot on somebody in the last round of your draft that could be somebody that's very beneficial for you. So I'm good with that.
I liked McKenzie a lot too. I like that you brought him up because Buffalo clearly is like probably maybe the most high powered offense this year. And if you look at guys that have been in his situation last year, like a Cole Beasley or like Emmanuel Sanders, like they were super productive.
Yeah.
And I think Gabe Davis is locked in as the number 2. And if you can get the number 3, maybe he'd be 4 behind like a Dawson Knox, but like I would take that too. So I think Dubs is a great pick, but McKenzie would have been my number 2.
All right, so we'll go ahead with our final pick and lock in Romeo Doubs.
Lock it in.
All right, after that, Jameis Winston, Brian Robinson, Njoku, Fant, Jones, Higbee, Hubbard, and Hurst.
Hurst is L's boy.
Hurst, don't it?
Yeah.
All right, so our draft, we'll recap it once, or get our thoughts on it. After
By the way, what a bust of a pick, Hayden Hurst last year for me.
Right.
I had him. I had shares of him too. Yeah.
So we got Trey Lance as our quarterback, wide receivers, T. Higgins, Allen Robinson, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Michael Gallup, Romeo Doubs, running back, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Pierce, Algier, and Jamal Williams, and Dalton Schultz as our tight end. So
yes, sir.
what do you think? Obviously, all 3 of us went through this, so we all probably like the team. Do you see any weaknesses anywhere? What are your overall thoughts on our team?
I'm gonna jump in. This is way better. This team is way better than our first mock draft that we did a couple months ago. Our initial mock draft, I I love that we were able to get both Najee and DeAndre Swift. I think they're both
Nasty.
going to be studs.
Nasty.
There's a little weakness there in T Higgins as our wide receiver 1. I'd much rather have him as a wide receiver 2, but I think we've still got basically 2 wide receiver 2s with Higgins and Robinson, potentially 4 wide receiver 2s, honestly, between Higgins, Robinson, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow. I'm good taking that, having 4 wide receiver 2/flex 1s within the wide receiver room. Grabbing Travis Etienne as a 3rd back, I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. Dalton Schultz starting tight end, hell yeah. Trey Lance starting wide receiver, or starting quarterback. Absolutely love that. Yeah. Damian Harris off the bench, Algier off the bench, sweet handcuff and Jamal Williams, Romeo Doubs upside. I have literally no complaints about this team.
Yeah, and just kind of talking what you said, I'm totally cool with where we went Travis Etienne there too, getting in that 3rd running back that's a high quality starter that you can lock in week in and week out in your flex spot. And just looking at the other teams here, I think we have a positional advantage with running back. I mean, the only other one that could maybe
team
compete with
strong.
I was going to say team 3 too, and Eckler, Javonte Williams. Then if Elijah Mitchell holds on to his spot, that's a pretty relevant and nice spot to have in San Francisco there. Team 2, yeah, McCaffrey, Chubb, Dobbins, besides
Kenneth
Chubb,
Walker
that's
too.
A couple, Ken Walker,
strong.
But got some injury concerns there too with a couple of guys. But no, I'm happy. We've got a nice balance of guys that could be surprises, that could outperform what their projections are, have some safe picks as well to help us out there on our bye weeks, or just if we need somebody to get us some points here and there. So definitely got some high upside here. And
I have to say, I'm extremely happy to be able to get Allen Robinson and then Dalton Schultz on the turn. Extremely happy to get Elijah Moore and then Hunter Renfrow after the turn as well.
And aren't you glad that Critter and I talked you into
both of those picks
over Pierce?
Yes.
Into both of those picks. Yes, sir.
It's the right move. It was the right move. No, I agree. I think this is the perfect draft.
Wait a minute. I talked you into Allen Robinson. Don't get that twisted.
What?
We were talking about Trey Lance.
No, we talked you into Trey Lance over Pierce.
And we still got.
And then Pierce was still there.
You talked me into more Renfrow and Lance Pierce. And those 4 rounds ended up working.
We talked you into more, and then Renfrow was still there too.
Yep. That's what I said.
Okay. I mean, like I was saying, this is for me. This is how I draft. This is how I play. I mean, I think I've had good success in fantasy, and you don't get anywhere just picking the safe pick every time. You need to pick guys that have a really good chance and opportunity to outdo their ADPs. I think literally probably every single one of our picks has that chance. Najee Harris, even though we picked him high, I think he has the opportunity to maybe finish as the RB2, RB3. He's going to be really, really involved. Swift, same thing. He has a chance to finish really high in the top 5 is his ceiling. T Higgins, I think, obviously you don't want to pray for anybody to get hurt, but if Chase were to go down even for a few games, Higgins would just be astronomical through the roof. You look at their target share last year, I'm pretty sure T Higgins was not very far behind Chase. I think Chase had a 26% share and he had a 23% share or something. He's going to be involved. I'm totally fine with him as our wide receiver 1, given the level of running backs that we have. It's that our top 3 running backs are just a set it and forget it every single week for me. And that's rare. You don't usually get that.
No.
Same thing with Robinson, Schultz, Moore. Everybody that we picked, I think has a really good chance to just shatter their ADPs. Lance, this is a perfect draft for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Very, very happy with this. And hopefully when the 3 of us are drafting this draft season, we have similar drafts and walk away happy with that. All right, that'll do it for this episode. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell on our YouTube page, and that way you'll know when we drop live episodes. Especially got the NBA episodes rolling out soon as well. Get you more live content as well. Swoosh, swoosh there from
Nothing but net. Nothing but net.
Nothing but net. Joe can be found at Dots Gel. I can be found at Dots JPEG.
God damn it.
Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that review. Get you some sticker swag sent out in the mail. Joe, where else can they find us at?
Available to listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Make sure to hit us up on our YouTube feed. Just search Dead Arm Sports. Our channel should be the first thing that pops up on your on the search bar. So make sure to hit subscribe and then hit that alert button to make sure that we get you end up getting all of those all of our notifications when we go live, when we drop new content, and you'll be set for life.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. Again, we'll be back next week. More content, getting you ready for your fantasy seasons. So one of these weeks, we'll drop some NCAA content for you as well. I'm excited for college football season to be rolling around the corner. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. And Joe, close her out.
When the bigs try to get at you, drop it like a mock. Drop it like a mock.